to all you who have gathered here and those following us on the live stream, to the 164th confirmation class presentation of Shavuot evening services here at the temple. We're so pleased you were able to join us for this special occasion, and we welcome you along with the family of our confirmand, Sophie Faye Braunstein. I'd like to invite Sophie's parents to come forward and lead us in candles and Kiddush. The congregation will please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu ha'adlik ner shel yom tov.
As we kindle these festival lights, may we rekindle in our hearts the light of the Torah, the light of truth. May these shining candles remind us of the flame of God which burns within us all. May we be warmed by its presence, just as these flames bring light and life and warmth to our celebration tonight.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lihadlik ner shel yom tov.
We celebrate this day in holiness and in joy. We lift this cup as a symbol of the sweetness of this day. Made holy by our commitments to bring happiness and joy to all the world, may the Torah ever be sweet within our mouths. May it lead us to a world of peace.
Sophie, will you lead us in the blessing?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Amen.
Congregation can be seated. Sophie's parents can give her a hug. Because we are all proud of our girl.
We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. In the brightness of this Confirmation Eve, as we celebrate our receiving of the light of Torah, may God's presence settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Please rise. Baruch et Adonai Hamvra. Baruch Adonai Hamvra le'olam va'ed. Praise be the one to whom praise is due. Praise be the one to whom praise is due, now and forever.
Baruch Adonai, Amor,
Please be seated. This is a reading by Edmund Flagg, written after the Holocaust. I'm a Jew because, born of Israel and having lost her, I have felt her live again in me, more living than myself. I'm a Jew because, born of Israel and having regained her, I wish her to live after me, more living than myself. I'm a Jew because the faith of Israel demands of me no abdication of the mind. I'm a Jew because the faith of Israel requires of me all the devotion of my heart. I'm a Jew because in every place where suffering weeps, the Jew weeps. I'm a Jew because at every time when despair cries out, the Jew hopes. I'm a Jew because the word of Israel is the oldest and the newest. I'm a Jew because the promise of Israel is the universal promise. I'm a Jew because for Israel, the world is not yet completed. We are completing it. I'm a Jew because above Israel and the nations, Israel places humanity and its unity. I am a Jew because above humanity, image of divine unity, Israel places the unity which is divine. Please rise for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you
We believe in tomorrow. We believe as Jews dedicated to service our temple and to our faith that we have the power to make tomorrow different from today. We believe that ignorance, poverty, and lack of sensitivity to the feelings, needs, or beliefs of others need not be permanent. We believe in people despite all that we know about them. We believe that there can yet be a time of peace, a time of sisterhood and brotherhood, a time of tranquility for ourselves, for our children, and for everyone who lives on this earth. We believe that we can have a share in bringing that day closer by the way in which we live throughout the year. The world may smile at our dreams, but no matter, we still believe.
Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, on earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home, to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Our heritage of justice. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. Then you live in our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence.
Please rise for the tefillah.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufia b'tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'koneh hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevik ula livnei v'neihem l'ma'an shemo ba'ahava, Melech, Uzer, Moshiach, Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Praise be the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Praise be the God of our mothers, of Sarah, of Rebekah, of Leah, and of Rachel. Praise be the source of our strength and courage, the source of kindness and good deeds. Praise be the source of gentleness and love, of softness and kind words. Praise be the man who transcends strength through gentleness. Praise be the woman who perfects gentleness through strength. Praise be the person who acts according to the best that is within. Praise be the person who reaches out to teach the best in others. We bless the gentle faithfulness of Abraham and the valiant strength of Sarah. Praise be the God who created with divinity a woman and a man.
As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you help me the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace. Its highest teaching is love and kindness. What is hateful to you, do not do to any person. That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization. honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties. But the study of Torah is equal to them all, because it leads to them all. Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. Please be seated.
Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lekolam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lekolam. Yotu Malachanu Likol HaShalom.
Please be seated. We take a moment for silent prayer. Turn now to the Mishaberach in the middle of page 4. We say these words for those in need of physical healing and spiritual healing as well. For those we care for, those who care for us. For those in hospitals and in nursing homes receiving care, and those at home. For all we love, for all we care for, for the brokenness of our world, that it might be healed, that together we might find the strength to be the healers of that world with our own hands and hearts. Please join us in the middle of page 4 with Mishaberach.
May the source of
rise now, at the bottom of page 4, for the Seder Kriyat Torah, for the service for the reading of the Torah.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Please be seated. The special Torah portion for Shavuot Eve is the Ten Commandments. I'd like to ask Sophie to say the blessing before the reading of the Torah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavarah.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarah Mi'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'cha banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torata. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So these words should sound pretty familiar as Torah portions go, I would imagine. Vayidaber Elohim et kol hadevarim ha'ela lemor. And God said all these things, saying, Anochi Adonai Elohecha. I am Adonai your God. Asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, mi beit avadim, out of the house of bondage. Lo yihyeh Elohim acherim. You shall have no other gods before me. Lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha l'shav. Don't take God's name in vain. Zachor et yom haShabbat l'kodsho. Remember the Sabbath day to make it holy. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. Honor your father and your mother. Lo tirtzach, lo tin'af, lo tignov. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal. Lo ta'anev re'acha et shaker. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Lo tachmod beit re'echa. Do not covet your neighbor's house. Lo tachmod eshet re'echa v'avdo v'amato v'soro v'chamoro v'chol asher le're'echa. Do not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. So if you do the blessing afterwards.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
It is a tree of life to them that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to them that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
Now we have Roots of Torah in a more modern form. Sophie, will you do your speech?
First of all, I'd like to thank my family, who have encouraged me to continue my Jewish studies. And I'd also like to thank my Hebrew high school teachers, who have provoked me to think about my Judaism in relation to the rest of the world. And of course, I would like to thank my rabbi, who has helped me to get this far. I wouldn't be here today without any of them. I'd also like to make a special thanks to the temple for being there for me through all of my previous accomplishments and the services I've helped to lead up to this day. I've always been in a small class, and this year has been smaller than it has ever been before, with only one student in the classroom, me. I had always been fine with this and prepared for this from the beginning of when I started my confirmation. It was my confirmation, I was fine with it being my confirmation solely, because I've been very independent on this subject. I have learned to be my own classmate through both this and other aspects of learning during COVID-19. I am very proud to be standing here for my confirmation. Today, I am confirming my own understanding of Judaism and what I take from it. In Judaism, we were always encouraged to ask questions and to be kind, and I consider that to be a very important and beautiful thing. Not only that, but I have literally grown up here at the temple. I know most of it like the back of my hand. While it has changed some from what I had originally known, it is still the same place it has been for me since the beginning. And there's also a legacy in that my father was confirmed here and some other members of my family as well. My picture will be on the wall alongside theirs. I carry all these reasons with me as I have chosen to be confirmed. Thank you all for coming to my confirmation, in person and virtually.
Thank you, Sophie, for not just that speech, but for so much. So, you are a class of one, but you've always been in a class of your own. And I have two stories for you, one very old and one pretty new. The old one first. You kind of know this story because I've told you a lot of stories since you were in preschool, and I think along the way you've heard this story before, but it's really well suited for you for this moment. So once upon a time, a very long, long time ago, Moses, who'd been dead for about 1,000 years and more, wondered what had become of the Torah that he had given to the people of Israel. Do you remember this story? Maybe? Okay. So Moses asked God for permission to be able to come back to earth for one day in order to see how the people of Israel were caring for the Torah that Moses had so lovingly written and then handed to them before his death. Magically, Moses is transformed and finds himself sitting in the classroom of Rabbi Akiba, one of the greatest teachers of our people from around the year 2,000 years ago. Akiba's teaching a lesson on what's called the crowns of Torah, the little curlicues and wisps that you may remember from reading from the Torah when you were about mitzvah, that emerge out of the tops of some of the letters. Akiba's teaching this mystical, amazing lesson about all the meaning that's hidden within all these little wisps and lines that most people just look at and go, it's there to be pretty. At the end of the class, Moses sits in awe and turns to the student next to him and asks the question. He says, who is this man and how does he come to have such a great understanding of Torah? And the other student turns to him and said, this is Rabbi Akiba, and he's teaching us a lesson that has been passed down to us since Moses at Mount Sinai. Now, that's kind of an odd story because you would think that Moses would know something that had been passed down for thousands of years from him at Mount Sinai. But this teaches us something really important about the Jewish people, which is that the questions matter more than the answers, and that along the way, we learn more and more from people asking those questions, generation after generation. You see, it wouldn't make any sense if we had a fixed understanding of this is exactly how the world is supposed to be, and Moses said it once 3,000 some years ago, and now we have to keep doing it over and over again. That story wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense, and it wouldn't have been published in a book, a collection of stories 2,000 years ago, and viewed as part of our tradition. But many people had asked many questions and had learned more about Torah generation after generation, and our understanding of Torah had changed and developed, and great minds had come who had understood it maybe even deeper than the people who first received those words generations and generations ago. So the first is a story about asking questions, where the important part of the story isn't the answer at the end, but the question. Here's the modern story. It's a story about a man named Isidore I. Rabbi, who was a Nobel Prize winner in physics. And when he was asked why he decided to go into science at all, much less go into physics, he responded with this famous, every Jewish mother and father thinks of this quote. Every other Jewish mother in Brooklyn would ask her child after school, so, did you learn anything today? But not my mother. She always asked me a different question. Izzy, she would say, did you ask any good questions today? That's the difference. Asking good questions made me a great scientist. Now, you probably know why I'm giving you these two stories, of all stories that I might have been able to choose. Sophie, you've always asked the best questions. Since you were a little girl, nothing got by you. I'm sure it's not just me, but I've had the honor of teaching you in class for many years, And you're always the inquisitive one, always the curious one, always the one who won't take the answer as good enough, but has another question to ask. I love that you mentioned that you found that to be something that made Judaism so welcoming to you, that we always want good questions. But it's not just something, I think that's a general purpose of Judaism. I think you're right about that. But it's something that's really deeply ingrained in your soul. If something's right, then people ought to be able to explain why. If something's wrong, then people ought to be able to explain why it shouldn't change. It's something I've always admired about you and that's made you a wonderful young woman and the kind of person who would stand here this day as a confirmand. You stand here today, Sophie, I'm sure, for many reasons. Because you appreciate being part of a society that values questions and values you. Because of your commitment and the commitment of your parents and your grandparents to this place and these values that we teach here. And because of something that's always been in your soul, which has always been there and we hope always will be. There's a certain joy that goes deeper than just happy. A certain hope, even in the most difficult of times, and a certain sense of who you are without the need for others to change or see you in any particular way. It's why you can stand here proudly and be the entire confirmation class, because you've always been who you are, and you will always be our Sophie. I have this blessing for you on behalf of your parents and your grandparents and the generations of our people that have been here and stood in your place as our 164th confirmation class. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you from harm. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yikuneka. May God's face be lifted unto you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted unto you and grant you always the blessing of peace. Amen. Mazel tov, Sophie.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, we have some people who would like to give you congratulations as well. And I'd like to start with Mickey Nyberg. Mickey, would you please rise and I'm unfortunately not present, but Sophie, will you bring up the cup that's underneath your pulpit so Mickey can present it to you?
Sophie, on the behalf of the Temple Brotherhood, I am honored to acknowledge your accomplishment of completing your studies to become a confirmant at the Temple. Brotherhood is pleased to present you with a Kiddush cup engraved with your name in hopes that you continue your Jewish studies and life, using it whenever appropriate and as a reminder of this day.
Thank you, Mickey, and thank you from the Temple Brotherhood.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of Temple Sisterhood, Karen Waldman.
Sophie, first of all, Mazal Tov from Sisterhood. We are so proud of you. Personally, I want to say I know that you have always been so proud of your Judaism, and I am so proud of you personally for going all the way through religious school and becoming a confirmand today. Mazal Tov again.
And there's a gift from Sisterhood underneath there too. And Ms. Harlan from the High School of Jewish Studies. And Sisterhood, and because she loves you.
I want to wish Sophie and her family a hearty Mazal Tov. Sophie, you are the penultimate example of what it means to be dedicated, flexible, resilient, and committed to your Jewish education, identity, and community. I'm sure it won't surprise anyone here that Sophie earned our highest award last year for perfect attendance and was an award winner again this year for one of our top-tier engagement awards. I know that you are going to stay connected to our Temple community. I'd love to be able to add you to our team of teaching assistants. I'm just making that little plug right now. We can talk after the service. And I hope you'll consider staying connected to the high school, We have had students study with us for all 4 years of high school, in case you didn't know. At a minimum, you will certainly be invited to join us on our second year class trip to DC, which should happen, God willing, next spring. And again, Mazal Tov, I'm truly grateful to be able to count students like you as part of our learning community.
Thank you, Ms. Harlan.
Again, thank you so much.
Our service concludes on page 5 with the Elena. Please rise. Let us adore the ever-living God and render praise unto you who spreads out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Please be seated. And join me, if you will, on page 5, in the reading Rise Up Like the Sun. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hands but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. Before we conclude the service, I wanted to thank Temple Sisters because I noticed before I came in holding the Torah, that there are actually sweets out there, takeaway sweets for Sophie's oneg. So even though we can't have an oneg under COVID rules, we have sweets for everybody to take home. That's so nice. We continue at the bottom of page 5 with the reading before the Kaddish. There are stars up above. So far away we only see their light, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways that we remember. We ask you all to rise, those of you at home, either from your seats or in your hearts, as we remember all those generations of our people who stood here as confirmands, as we stand here today, and all those in our families that are with us as we celebrate this day with Sophie. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, ba'ma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'izman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach l'olam ulmei ulmayim. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yit'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Please join us in our closing song, Oseh Shalom. This melody and every reading in the service and every melody along the way was chosen by Sophie, so please join in. Oseh Shalom, Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Say Shalom Bimromav. May the one who makes peace in high heavens help us to make peace here on earth. May the generations of our people who stand with us this day teach us the lesson of commitment and of faith. But may the generations yet to come learn that lesson, generation after generation, from those who rise to lead for us all. We ask God's blessing on all who are gathered here, on all we love, and all we share. Bruchim atem b'vorchem, uvruchim atem b'tzeitechem, me'ata v'ad olam. Blessed are you who have come here this day. Blessed are you as you go upon your way. From this time forth and forevermore, may you bless the name of the Lord. Sameach, everyone. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Sophie.